Oh.
All right. I hereby call to order the October 9th, 2015 public hearing of the City of Prescott Preservation Commission. Members present at this meeting are, starting at my right, Russ Buchanan, Gary Edelbrock, David DJ Butke. Sorry, I'm just reading. On my left is Robert Burford, and I am Trinity Shelton, chairwoman. I like saying that. Okay. Additional planning and zoning staff members present are Kat Moody, historic preservation specialist. George was here. George Worley, planning manager, will be joining us. Darla Eastman, administrative specialist. This is an open public hearing and is being videotaped and tape recorded by the city. The proceedings are being televised by representatives of the public media, local cable and or radio stations, and may also be rebroadcast. The number of commission members present is 5. Is that correct? And will require 4 votes for a majority. All parties wishing to be heard on an issue are required to raise their hands and be recognized by the chairperson prior to speaking. Speakers will be expected to state their name and address for the record so that we may know who is speaking and be able to contact them at a later date if necessary. Please turn off any cell phones or electronic devices, and if you haven't already done so, please sign the attendance roster before leaving the meeting. So today we are meeting, let's see. First thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the August 14th, 2015 meeting, which are lengthy because that was a long meeting and we skipped last month's meeting. Does anybody have any objections to anything that's in the minutes, or has anybody read the minutes? Y'all good? Everybody good? Okay.
Entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting or approving the minutes of the August 14, 2015 meeting, raise your right hand and state aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're good. Okay. So that approval passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is HP 15-025 for 111 South Mount Vernon Avenue, and it is in Historic Preservation District Number 13, Southeast Prescott, APN 110-01045, and the request is for approval for a replacement of windows. And the presentation will be made by Kat Moody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kat.
Good morning, Commission. As indicated, this is a request for window replacement at 111 South Mount Vernon Avenue. You can see here, this is the main house here is what we're considering. This is basically the first residential house on the east side of Mount Vernon, on South Mount Vernon Street. So this sits right behind this commercial property that fronts Gurley and Mount Vernon's southeast corner. And the request is for window replacement. I thought I'd go ahead and give you a little history on the house. Not a lot, but it's an interesting structure because it was originally a duplex. And it was developed as a duplex at an early date. So this is from the 1910 Sanborn map. And you can see here, it was considered a double house, which is how they were termed at the time. Instead of duplex, they called them double houses. And so it used to have a front porch entry on the north side here as well as the south side. The south side porch still remains. But you can clearly, and it was a double house for quite some time through its history before it was converted to a single family residence. That may explain why there are so many windows in this house. And so the request is to replace the windows in the house. Most of the windows, not all, will go through the various replacement requests. So this is the front or west elevation of the house. And the owner has labeled the various window types. So as we go through these elevations, I'll explain what the coding is here. And this morning at 7 a.m., I received an email from the owner modifying his request, so I'm going to give you some slight differences from what's presented in the staff memo, so I'll point those out as we go. There's no changes to his request on the front elevation of the house. A are the A windows, which are on this ground floor. Are being proposed to be replaced with single hung that fit the existing openings, Anderson Eagle all wood window with aluminum cladding. The aluminum cladding would match the current trim color as closely as possible. I do not think they intend to change the color from what has been indicated to me. So A's are single hung, Anderson all wood with aluminum cladding. And then C, the C windows, you can see those are either a single hung or a double hung there now. But one of the problems with these windows, replacing them with in-kind style windows, is that these are bedroom windows. So according to building code, they do not meet egress requirements for the building. So I worked with the owner. We came up with a couple of ideas. A window that meets the square footage exiting requirement would be a casement style window, which is a crank out window. And so they're proposing to place casements here with a wood mullion, applied mullion, so that when the windows were closed, they would appear the same as they do in this picture. But when they were cranked out, you would obviously be able to tell it's a casement that's masquerading as a single hung or double hung window. So that's one of the things in their proposal, just to maintain the existing appearance of the front facade of the house. So those are casement style windows with an applied mullion to mimic the double hung. Moving to the south side, these are all listed as A, single hung. This is the all same window as in the front, Anderson Eagle all wood with aluminum cladding. So the front and south elevations, he's proposing wood windows with aluminum cladding. In the rear elevation, this is where things, this is consistent with the original request as well. He was proposing for the rear elevation to be able to save some money, place a Simonton vinyl windows. So the D windows are double hung vinyl windows, is what's being proposed. And the E windows are, again, a bedroom, so they're proposing to put a vinyl casement window. So this is the rear elevation of the house. So all of these are being proposed as a vinyl window. And the modified request that I just received this morning, and I will read the email to you, because I think that will be the clearest way to impart this information. Kind of late notice on this, but I've just contracted to have the lattice on the north side of the house extend to the front. So let me go back to the aerial so you can. So this is the north side. There's a very small gap here between the property line and the building, and I believe he's going to extend lattice and plant vines right here on this corner. So he says, the lattice on the north side of the house extended to the front, so none of the north side windows will be seen from a 45-degree angle except the one closest to the front of the house. There will also be 13 Boston ivy plants that are to be planted to cover those trellis. Saying that, I'd like to seek approval for the other 6 windows on the north side of the house to be the same as the rear vinyl double hung window we will be using. Originally, in the packet I gave you, these were slated to be double hung, the double hung Anderson Eagle all wood with aluminum cladding. So he's now requesting that the windows on the north and the east side would be a vinyl window rather than an all wood window with aluminum cladding. The windows in this This is an addition, a later addition, this dormer with the bay style dormer. And these windows are new or newer and will not be replaced. So those are not under this consideration. And I was expecting the window contractor to be here. He had indicated he was going to be here. Because this is a National Register listed property, we always recommend that an all-wood window goes in. This commission has improved many all-wood windows with aluminum cladding. That's sort of a compromise between historic integrity and the benefit of a weather-resistant exterior surface. And so we see those all over being replaced. In almost all of our historic districts, those have been approved by this commission. Vinyl windows have been approved in a very limited fashion when they're in the rear of the structure and they're completely hidden from view. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you all. And so far the contractor hasn't appeared, so we'll just proceed from here as best we can. And
Kat, do you know if the vinyl window color and the aluminum cladding color are going to be similar or the same? Or?
Yes, the intention is it's a white-ish,
Gonna be white,
yeah.
Cream?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the profile, I don't know, I guess we don't have an actual cut sheet on it, but the profile is probably similar.
I have a cut sheet. I have cut sheets for the wood windows. I do not have cut sheets for the vinyl windows. The contractor was going to give us more information on what specific product he was proposing for that.
Okay. I'd open up first on this casement window in the front. I don't have an issue with, I don't know why we would put the onus on them to make a faux double hung looking, because it's not going to look double hung. It's the upper sash overlaps the lower sash, and that's just not going to happen. It's going to be one window with just a mutton between, just stuck on the glass, I would say.
Right.
I would say that because of ordinances and egress requirements, let's just do the casement and let it be a casement. And when it's open, as you had mentioned, it's going to be obvious it's not a single or double hung. So I would, in fact, I would prefer that they not put that false mullion in there. And we'll go on with the other vinyl windows if somebody else has comments about that.
I agree with Mr. Burford on the casement situation. I also wanted to say that I ask or clarify that this other side of the building that they're requesting to be approved vinyl on is the side that's visible probably from the parking lot behind this.
So I think what he's indicating is this lattice is going to be extended all the way up to the front. So you can see the lattice, and then he's going to put vines. So you're correct. Right now, it's rather visible from the parking lot here. If you're in that parking lot, your view would be this. That's where that photo's taken from, is the parking lot. So he's going to extend the lattice, put 13 ivy plants.
Okay, thank you.
So one option, excuse me, one option would be for the owner to not do anything with these windows, and that would be in compliance, I guess, with the preservation guidelines, and then go ahead and replace all of the other ones. So I guess the owner would have the option of replacing all the ones except for these if we felt that vinyl was not appropriate.
Or you could approve with the modification that certain elevations receive an all-wood window with aluminum cladding, per the original request, or it's up to you all how to structure that, if you want to make a conditional approval.
And approving the vinyl windows at the rear, I can't quite remember what we've done. I haven't been on the commission that many years, but so typically, this is a question for Kat. Typically, the vinyl windows work really well in bathroom situations, or even kitchen, over the kitchen sink, that kind of thing, for instead of a wood window, a wood interior. So is that influencing, or is it simply because it's on the rear elevation?
It's simply a cost-saving measure because he does have a fair number of windows. It's 28 windows they're replacing.
But I mean, approval of vinyl windows comes with mainly because of elevation exposure.
Yes, yes. When it's on the rear of the property, it's completely hidden. It's a small compensation to the property owners when they can't afford to replace all wood throughout the house. It hasn't been frequently approved, but this commission has in the past approved them in limited applications. And we have approved, as an example, for the casement conversion without mullions, in order to be true to the fact that, yes, we had to swap out this historic window with something in a different style due to current building life safety issues, building code requirements. In Pinecrest, we had a bedroom window, a corner bedroom window that was approved by the commission that was a replacement from a double hung to two casements on the corner of that bedroom. And that project we reviewed in our photo follow-up, and it turned out looking well. And yes, there is no horizontal, dividing between to create the illusion of divided light. But that was a solution that was used in the past.
And I would assume codes would take precedent over our decisions.
They do for life safety issues, yes. There's small modifications in building codes for like ADA access where you can get a slightly less, opening width and things like that. But when it comes to life safety, you don't get to vary from the building code requirement.
Okay.
Good information. Anybody else?
Madam Chairman?
Just one moment.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Madam Chairman, I would have to concur with the concept of eliminating that, on the front elevation, eliminating that faux mutton, to give the illusion. Generally speaking, when you see those things, they have a really thin sight line, and it doesn't give you the broad band that, an actual hung frame window would have. So, and as far as, I had a kind of a question. This kind of comes to George, I believe. And it was the idea of extending that lattice, they say, out to the front. That's kind of vague. I know there's front yard fence height limitations. So would this be up to the front yard setback?
Probably the front face of the house, right?
Front face of the house.
The house,
so
I'm sure, is fairly close to, if not over, the front setback under current requirements. So I would say probably the closest they will get is the front face of the house.
Right.
Which would obscure the windows somewhat, but
And that
I
is,
will point out that they're also visible from Gurley Street
Yes.
across that parking lot.
yes. And that was why I was kind of asking, because, I mean, the intent of this lattice appears to be privacy and the screening of these windows from view. And I think probably it would be more of a privacy issue, but, that would just be an assumption. Anyway, as far as on the north elevation, as far as having vinyl windows as opposed to elsewhere or first time proposed, the eagle windows, again, those vinyl windows seem to have a kind of a narrow sightline profile on the actual sash lines. So I would be in favor of seeing or hearing a motion essentially that their original proposal be
Wood windows on the three front visible sides,
yes,
potentially allowing the vinyl on the rear.
on the rear for economic reasons, which makes sense, and those are usually the zero visibility profiles or elevations anyway. And I would justify that in just consistency as well around the house. And then as far as I also heard an option or proposed here with the idea that perhaps they do nothing with the existing windows. And, you know, with these new windows, they're definitely more energy efficient. But I would assume that they've gotten to a point of deterioration perhaps where, you know, I guess that would be an option of actually refurbishing them, but I would like to see it consistent with the front of the house, personally. Even though the screen line is to be projected out to the front of the house, you're still going to see those top lines. That's all I had for now.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Buchanan?
Yes. Actually, most of what I had to talk about was already covered, but I know the vendor's not here, the window vendor's not here, but I would really like to see the difference between the vinyl and the wood. And I'd also, and I'm not gonna, I know you guys have architectural experience here, but I'm not ready really to write off the double hung, the fake double hung on the casement without really seeing what it really does look like. It's something I would guess in between a piece of tape going across the center and
Here,
and
let
maybe-
me, perhaps I can, I've got the cut sheet for the Eagle window. So this is the casement. You know, this is what the casement would look like. And then they have under options for the casement, and I know this isn't a great, you know, picture. So they show what the light or emulsions, so they would just be applied onto the glass.
So they do have some relief to them,
Yeah.
besides just a piece of tape run across that looks like.
In general, and I think from this shows it that there's an aluminum cladding chunk on the outside that's glued on, and there's a wood chunk on the inside glued on. And these are showing grills, and it sounds to me like they could make just a horizontal base.
It would just be a custom.
It would actually be a relief on the glass.
Yeah, it would actually pop out. And the thing is this kind of reinforces the idea of I was talking about earlier. I'm looking at the widest mullion that they have to offer, and it
Which
looks to
is-
be a 1 inch.
Inch and a half is this one right here.
Yeah, and these sash lines are generally anywhere between 2 and 2.5 to 3.
Although I suspect it's a custom fabricated thing because it's not a standard. But there is, and I think this is a good point, it's a gray area, and it does start to head into creating fake historic appearance. So you could make the case that at first glance the building will look more like its original condition if you have something, but on a more detailed looking, you would clearly see, and certainly when the window was open, it would look like it was sort of a fabricated historic look.
And you'd be able to tell that from the sidewalk or the street?
I think, depending on your level of knowledge,
Right.
yes, you
Some
could.
people would. Yeah.
Because we're not
With
only
the window
respecting-
open, it'd
Some
be
people are
clear to
window
everybody.
Nazis.
We're not only respecting past history, we're making history along the way. So the fact that the codes have, changed to where somebody needs a different kind of window to safely get out of that bedroom upstairs, we can respect that new part of our history by saying this is what's needed at this time,
And a casement window was a window of the period. It's not like we're saying, let's put a horizontal slider, or something that would never have been used during the period.
And those vertical proportions are still the same.
Yes.
And I believe it's part of our directive to encourage new construction, or the differentiation between new construction and old construction, just to make it.
Compatible but differentiated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay. Was there a hardship cited as to the reason for replacing all these windows?
So many of the windows do not work. They're no longer functional.
Well, the double hungs, they never do work.
So the owner, the property is just recently sold. This is the new property owner coming in. They've just purchased the house. They want to improve the energy efficiency and have functional windows. Right now, most of the windows don't function, according to him.
Anybody else have any?
I do.
Yes, sir. Let's hear it.
I am absolutely opposed to the vinyl windows on the north side.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
I'll counter that. I agree with Russ. I'd really like I'd like to see what the vinyl windows, how closely they resemble. I mean, it's going to be a different sash size anyway. They're new windows. They're probably not, they might fairly closely mimic the originals, but and again, some of these aren't even originals. I could tell. It seemed like there was a slider in there, and on that south side.
Yeah.
But
Yes, on the south side, there's
if
a
color
slider here.
and the profile are pretty indistinguishable from sidewalk distance or driving distance by, I think I would consider allowing the vinyl windows, because I think what I'm getting caught in is that we're using the term vinyl and aluminum clad. They're both more modern materials than wood, and if they appear the same, then I don't really have a huge issue with the vinyl, personally, with allowing the owner to have some benefit there, I guess. I mean, if we're going to do it for the rear, I think then our logic kind of breaks down as to maintaining original appearance, that if we're going to do it for the rear, let's consider it elsewhere. But I would like to see the profiles, personally. But nobody's here to show us that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Secretary of Interior standards are pretty clear that vinyl windows should not, they don't have a historic integrity for a historic National Register listed house.
But aluminum does.
Well, an all-wood constructed window
Then
is
why
what,
don't we tell them to do all wood and paint it? I guess if we're going to keep making a modification here, I think Trinity said it very well, that we're making history now too, and that if the codes change and you want to do something to your project, you've got to address the current codes, like put on an escape ladder down the side of a building, which, it says something about how codes change. So vinyl, yes, I hear you with the guidelines.
Yeah.
Maybe the guidelines are,
and the guidelines
make more
are,
history with them.
our design guidelines in our Historic Preservation Master Plan are based on Secretary of Interior standards,
Right.
which are a standard across the nation, which commissions like this use to determine, what's acceptable and what's not. And generally, I think you'd want to be careful about saying, well, if we're putting vinyl in the back, we could put it on the side. Well, if you put it on the side, why not put it in the front? Why not, and then where are we at?
But if the vinyl is, for all intents and purposes, indistinguishable from a painted wood window,
But-
I'm not saying it is.
So
I'm just
there's a
saying that
question.
If it is, then does it matter?
I think there's a question about general appearance, profiles, as DJ had mentioned, but there's also longevity of the material, its weathering capability. I know a lot of folks who've replaced in historic homes, without having to go through this commission, have used vinyl and then have gone back and replaced 15 years later with wood, because the actual window was not holding up and it was starting to show weathering, and curling and warping of the vinyl material itself. So I think the idea behind an all-wood window, I agree, aluminum cladding was not of the period. That's a small compensation for, particularly in Arizona, where we have a dry climate
Maintenance, yeah.
with a lot of sun. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's troubling. It's not, if it were on the north elevation, you would expect a little less weathering too, but it's not, so there's a few different issues coming up here. I don't know, do we have enough information? Anybody think we really have enough information to make a decision on this?
I personally don't. I would like to see the vinyl windows, and I think we should table this till next month.
Was that a motion?
Let's hear
I
it.
make a motion, I make a motion that we table this HP, where is it? HP 110-01045 until the following month.
Okay, I believe you just read the APN number. Can you make another motion with the,
Excuse me.
you did good though.
Move to table this until next month, HP 15025.
Okay,
Can
we
you
have a motion. Do we have
include in your motion just that, the reasoning for that, because we need more information on the,
I make a motion that we table this until the following month, HP 15-025, because I think we have insufficient information to make a decision.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Anybody?
I'll second.
Okay. A second and a third? All right. All those in favor of tabling this until next month, and when we can have further information and hopefully have the window contractor here to provide samples so we can actually find out what the materials look like, raise your right hand and state aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed, nay? Okay. 5-0, that passes. We're going to postpone that item until next month. Thank you all for your time. The next item on the agenda is update of current events or other items of note. Miss Kat Moody
She's got an update.
will give us some information, including,
I will. So, at our last meeting, we had a review of signage at the Santa Fe Depot, as you may recall. And since that time, oh, this is a little dark. Let me see if I can lighten that up on this view.
Got a Santa Fe Depot.
As suggested, why?
So this is something that happened through an administrative approval, and Trinity is certainly aware of this because when we do an administrative approval for something, we discuss with the chair to make sure they're in agreement with the city staff on the item. So what happened is at the last meeting, you may recall, there was a proposal to move, there used to be Depot Marketplace painted on this middle band. And this Stratos Wealth Partners sign, they were proposing to place it here and move Depot Marketplace down below. And Russ Buchanan had mentioned he felt that that was placing the building signage, the building name, too low on the building, and it should really be up higher above all the commercial signage. And then DJ had indicated that he would like to see a more traditional identification of the building as the Santa Fe Depot, the actual building name, not just Depot Marketplace, the development name. And so those ideas were discussed at the meeting. We had made a conditional approval that they could place this sign down below and leave the Depot Marketplace signage here. And the contractor got with the building owner, and then they presented this option to place the Santa Fe Depot signage in the arch at the top of the building, and then be able to place the Stratos Wealth Partners sign where they had originally requested it. So we felt like this was actually signage, a version of signage that complied with the discussion that happened here at the commission. So checked with Trinity, and we all agreed this would be acceptable. So we gave the approval to Stefan Markov to go ahead and place the Santa Fe Depot signage above the arch. And so this was installed, I believe, last week. So you can go by and check it out in person.
and those are aluminum letters, right?
Those
at the
are
top?
aluminum, yes, letters.
And I just wanted to, discuss with all my fellow commissioners here that I wanted to make sure, okay, because this is the first time anything like this has come across to me before, And when I saw the proposal, that's exactly what I thought is, well, this is kind of what we discussed at the meeting. And essentially, I think my email back to Kat was, I can't see a good enough reason to turn this down. So, yes, I get, go ahead. But I want to get feedback from all of you as far as if something like this happens in the future, would you prefer it come back to all of us to review as a group before approving it? Or what are your feelings?
And I'm going to interrupt before people. The other item was, as Mr. Edelbrock had pointed out, there was a banner for Stratos Wealth Partners. And so we were going to have to force them to, because their banner had been up beyond their period. And we were going to have to deal with enforcement of the banner issue if we didn't allow them to put the other signage up. So that was another compelling reason to try to move the project along and enable this. But I'll leave it to you all.
If any of you had any feedback.
I don't have any issue with the administrative decision, and the reason being is, I mean, you were fully aware and present at the meeting, and as we described, I think this came out exactly as envisioned. This is exactly what I had in mind when I was proposing that these letters be placed over that arch identifying this building, and it really came down to a hierarchy, of the building versus the commercial value of the building. And I think this has just been a great solution, and the sign contractor actually heeded advice from this board, and I'm most pleased.
Good, wonderful.
Yeah.
Anybody else? No?
I certainly support what you did, and I would support it again.
Okay.
The administrative decision was absolutely 100% in agreement with our decision.
Okay, good.
I think the sign contractor feels it was a real win because he feels identifying the building versus the development was a really positive thing.
He even said so at the meeting. He was in favor.
I think it's an improvement over what was there before, bottom line. But that's my opinion, and I would not have just given it approval had it not been something that circulated amongst us the last time. So.
Just so you know, from a staff perspective, if anything is significantly different or deviates from direction that we've heard here, we would not propose an administrative approval of something like that. Okay. So if something sounds like it was the direction that you were going, and it would err on the side of the applicant to speed up the process by doing it administratively, we will propose those things, again, as long as it's in conformance, or at least general conformance, with direction that we've heard here. It's not that we're going to bypass this commission in any way.
All right, thank
George, the building is significantly improved today with the absence of those banners. No,
I
truly.
agree completely.
It looked like it didn't
anymore.
look like a historic building in our city, and it's when you turn, and there's a lot of traffic there on Sheldon Street, people look at it and it looked pretty shabby, and it looks great today.
I agree.
Good deal. Anybody else? Do we have any more feedback on the project itself or anything?
Oh, no, I was on to something else.
Okay, on to something else.
On to something else.
New.
Mr.
Okay,
Updates.
I have one other update, which is we will be mailing for the 2016 Historic Home Tour. And so I just wanted to show you, this is Gurley on this map. This is Park Avenue. This is Country Club Drive. So the green area here is the West Prescott District. And so this is Toltec Lodge right here. So initially, we're going to mail, there are 99 in this area here, the green and these two blues, which were individually listed properties. These have 99 National Register listed homes in this green area. And then Toltec Lodge will make the 100th potential National Register listed house that could be on the tour. Obviously, we will not receive, full participation. So we think that this is going to be enough to do an initial mailing to the West Prescott district, and see if any of those homeowners are interested in being on the 2016 Historic Home Tour, which was a very large success in 2014 when we held it on Mount Vernon, Pleasant, and Union Streets. And so we will be sending out in the next week or two a letter to these property owners describing how it would be structured, the date of the tour. It's a one-day event. I believe we had the homes open from 10 to 4 last, or 9:30 to 4, something like that last time. We had a lot of volunteer support. We had the Elks Opera House Foundation. We had the Charlotte Hall Museum volunteers. We had the Teen Center as volunteers selling water on the street corners. So we got a lot of community involvement. And in the end, that event generated donations to all of those charity organizations because we did see a profit, and those went back into the community from the previous events. So we're hoping the same thing will happen with the 2016 home tour. And we do have a Facebook page for Prescott Historic Preservation, and we will be posting updates about that event on the Facebook page as well as the city website. So that's what I have. And do you have any questions?
I was just wondering if you've considered including Lincoln School, 1909, a portion of Lincoln School. They have some old structures there.
I think there's a good chance we would try to be staged out of Lincoln School, so they would definitely be involved. And we're actually going to contact them to see if they have a program that some of the proceeds from the event could get donated back to the school program. So our focus right now is going to try to keep the charity monies in the neighborhood, in the region where the event is being held. So I think we'd still be looking at donating some of the money back to Charlotte Hall Museum, but we had discussed also approaching Lincoln School and seeing if they could be involved in some way as well.
I was recently downtown, and I saw Lee's people out there measuring windows for the Haziampa Hotel.
Oh, yes. So I guess they're going to get started.
They're making progress. I know this is not appropriate, perhaps, to this commission, but a friend of mine at Bloomtree Realty has a house on Park Avenue listed for sale, and it's a 1924 structure. It's approximately 800 square feet. And Monday she found some scammer had listed it on Craigslist as a rental. It's been reported to the Prescott Police Department, as well as a national organization that tracks these kind of things. But someone found her listing and listed it for rent.
Wow.
That's weird.
It seems odd that you'd be able to rent a house you don't have a key to.
You know, thieves don't consider those kind of things.
Wow.
I mean, it has, modern type locks on the doors, but it's an 800 square foot structure with the original oak floors, and it's real. It even has the original light fixtures in there from when the home was built. But I mean, a thief doesn't care. Send me a deposit.
Right.
Buy your card at Walmart.
Yeah. Well, good to be aware of. Thank you.
Just an FYI.
And Robert has something?
Just to follow up on that fence, that crazy fence on Mount Vernon and Carlton, I believe.
Yes.
Did you find out something from traffic?
I have, yes. I've had a whole string of emails between myself and traffic engineering. So they are working on it. They have developed a design to move the fence back. They've done an analysis of site triangles. There's a design on the city engineer's desk right now, and they're working. They feel like their design is going to accommodate, for good site visibility at that corner, and they're just waiting to figure out how it's going to be structured between the city and the property owner paying for the work to be done, and so it's in the works. Okay. And I've been assured it's not going to get dropped off their radar screen. They're going to pursue it through
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that needs to be right.
The American Legion has completed the project that they had, and it looks really great. I mean, it's really an vast improvement over what it used to be.
Fantastic.
I'll go by there and take a look. Thank you for that
We can
update.
see pictures by next meeting or something.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good.
Yep.
Great. Any other items anybody needs to discuss?
Nope.
All right. Are we ready to adjourn then?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I hereby adjourn the meeting of the October 9th, 2015 of the Prescott Preservation Commission. Thank you.
Well done.
Well done.